Yvonne, sighted guide and tremendous support to me through my life. We normally attend Maxwell Mearns Parish Church up in Newton Mearns on a Sunday morning, but it's been a real honour to be asked to come down and actually talk about East End good causes in God's house. So a big thank you to those that decided to call us down to have a chat about this. Thank you very, very much. Now, I'm only alive today and standing here thanks to the love your neighbour generosity of a stranger, because just 10 years past on Monday there, I was lucky enough to receive a pancreas and a kidney transplant. It totally cured my type 1 insulin-dependent diabetes that I had for 34 years, and the kidney failure that had come on as a result of it. So really, when they talk about love your neighbour, there can be no greater love than somebody saving someone's life by donating 2 organs. Well, those 2 organs live on inside me, and if it wasn't for that, East End Good Causes wouldn't exist. So the whole body of East Renfrewshire Good Causes is basically 2 organs living on inside me and guided by my personal Christian faith. The purpose of Good Causes is, very, very simply, to love your neighbour. And the more that we love our neighbour, basically, the more heaven comes to earth. We don't live in a perfect world, sadly, but I think we're all called on to try and do what we can to try and make earth as much like heaven as we can, until hopefully all of us are able to get to heaven. Do excuse me a little while a blind man tries to read his notes. Now, I'd like to tell you just a wee bit about the story of where East End Good Causes came from. I mentioned 10 years past Monday was the 10-year anniversary. Well, when I went for the transplant, I was extremely unwell. I had 8% kidney function, so I was absolutely shattered, sleeping 16 hours a day, and really just surviving was pretty much it. But I was very, very fortunate to be called through after a year waiting on the transplant list. And 21st of January 2007, I received a pancreas kidney transplant. Now, a fairly hard shift, it's not a routine operation, you're in surgery for 10 hours, 9-10 hours. Good thing about that, I was sound asleep, so I don't really remember too much about it, fortunately. However, after about 7 days in intensive care, high dependency, managed to get back up to the ward. And by that time, you're not feeling all that great. And they thought that I'd developed a clot. And had it been a clot, it meant that they either would have had to fish out one or both of the organs, and I would have been back to square one. And that was really a pretty dreadful prospect. So, to find out whether it was a clot or not, basically I get taken down. I mentioned my wife Yvonne, who was with me every step of the way. Yvonne put me in a wheelchair, wheeled me down, and we're sitting outside the room where you get the scan. This was through an Edinburgh Royal Infirmary. Now, if it hadn't happened to me myself, I would have thought, possibly a bit of a told story. But you just couldn't make this kind of thing up. I was sitting there, I should have been sitting with my knees knocking together, wondering whether I would live or die. And it was literally as if somebody had just tapped me on the shoulder and said, now look, this is what's going to happen. And I turned to Yvonne and I said, Yvonne, I'm never going to remember this, because these ideas just came flooding in. And please remember, I'd been so unwell for so long, I didn't have the energy to sit and think what I would do if I managed to get through, if I was lucky enough to have my life saved by a stranger, somebody who truly loved me as a neighbour. So I said to poor Yvonne, you're going to have to remember this. And poor Yvonne was absolutely shattered, so she went away and got a reporter's notepad. And despite being registered blind, I do see 4% vision out of one eye, so I'm able to scribble notes down. So instead of sitting there thinking, I'm going to live or die, for 20 minutes, I furiously scribbled away, page after page of notes. Yvonne, He'd walked off to get a coffee, it was a hard shift for the carer, never mind the patient. When she came back, after 15 minutes, I said, look, that's it. There's the whole business plan of East Renfrewshire Good Causes. And one said, what are you talking about? Now bear in mind that you've only been there every step of the way. So there's no way it was the idea of Good Causes down to me. I'm purely a facilitator. And I know without any shadow of a doubt, the whole business plan, the whole concept of Good Causes was basically divine intervention. Because with the best will in the world, I was too ill to come up with such an excellent thing that worked in a modern world. So, obviously, I'm saying obviously, as far as I know, the scan went very, very well. And it turned out I didn't have a scan. So after 16, I didn't have a clot. I did have a scan. That's how they established whether I clot or not, and I didn't. So after a total of 16 days in the hospital, through in Edinburgh, we basically we came back through, we stayed up in Newton Mearns, and that was it. East End Good Causes, I phoned up a few different people, a few trusted friends, most of whom are Christian, and they turned around and said, yeah, absolutely happy to support the whole concept of it. I mean, how do you say thank you? I wouldn't be alive today, but how do you say thank you for a second gift of life? Those organs gifted by God, the skill of surgeons gifted by God. It really doesn't get any better than that from a human perspective. So I wanted to say thank you, I wanted to give back. And the lovely thing is, the plan had all been given to me by divine intervention. So every time you see anything in the newspaper, I mean, it's a standing joke, I've got a face fit for radio, it's probably as well that I don't see so well. But publicity encourages people to hopefully love their neighbour. And that is the way that you bring, well, I personally believe it's the way you bring Christianity to a modern Western world. When you can step in like Good Causes does, into people's lives, and it's especially at a time of need. And that need, yeah, in a small amount of cases, it's due to poverty. Charity tends to be thought of as a poverty-driven thing. I would say the needs in East Renfrewshire tend to be very, very wide and vague. Yes, there's a degree of homelessness. You've got the homelessness unit up in Clarkson, very, very near here. So there's over 200 homeless presentations in East Ren. We work with that group of people. But with an ageing population, you also find there's a heck of a lot of demand down to dementia, macular degeneration, frailty, people getting older. Well, there's something lovely about being able to step in and at least make a gesture. Now, whether we are helping somebody put in a wet floor shower area because they can no longer manage a bath, or you are giving an iPad to an autistic kid, I would argue that it's not the product that we give or the goods and services that we give as a charity. It's actually what we're saying to our neighbour, and it's what I believe God wants us all to do. It's like, we care. And we care is based on love your neighbour. So I would call on anyone and everyone, please. It doesn't matter how little, how much, and it's not always about money. But the power of, I mean, a total stranger gifted 2 organs to me, which is why I'm standing here today. Now, that is a massive gift. But a gift of actually just a smile to somebody, a good morning to someone as you walk past. Loneliness is such a problem. Here, our Good Causes will work to try and help alleviate loneliness in all sorts of different ways. But we can all play our part. And if we do that, hopefully, as I'm trying to do, you're following what Jesus taught us all to do, and that is to love our neighbour. Every time we love a neighbour, I do so, we do so, to honour God, but also, in my case, it's in memory of the sadly deceased organ donor. How do you say thank you? ER Good Causes, we've now helped over 1,600 people living within East Renfrewshire. And each one of these people have been helped in my attempt to try and say, do you know what? We care. We love you. You're part of our community. Whether it's Alzheimer's, whether it's autism, whether it's disability, whether it's a kid that can't go on the school trip. We don't want people not able to engage due to poverty. So as a community we pull together, follow the Christian faith, and we try and make sure that everyone's included and feels valued. I think that's what Jesus called us all to do. So thank you very, very much for listening to me prattling on. I shall now ask my good wife to come up and get me so I don't go flying down the stairs. Thank you very much indeed.